2023 Hall of Fame induction ceremony. To get us started, we're going to start as we do every Hall of Fame, and that's with the national anthem. And we've got some members of the Aquinas Choir to lead us in that. Please stand.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red the walls bursting in, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say not that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, ladies, and thank you all for joining us on this incredibly special occasion. My name is Joby Knapp. I'm the Executive Director of Advancement here at Aquinas. We're thrilled to bring this year's event to you here, right where it should be, on campus, where all of our inductees have left their mark. And they'll forever be honored in the halls here of 1127 Dewey Avenue. I'd like to invite up our president, Mr. David Eustace, to welcome all of you.
Thank you, Joby. Good morning, everyone. It has been a pleasure to spend my first alumni weekend with so many people. I was commenting to a couple of people this morning. The last school I resided at, Xavier High School in Middletown, Connecticut, wasn't founded until 1963. So our first graduating class was in 67. And what I was saying this morning is over the last 2 days, I've, I think, spoken 6 or 7 times to different groups, starting Friday afternoon with a class of 1953 who were celebrating their 70th reunion. So math tells you they're 88 to 90 years old, and just the nicest group of men, and in some cases they're widows that you could imagine. And then that evening I was with the class of 88, of which our principal, Ted Mancini, is a member. And then yesterday, 63 and 68 and scholarship breakfast. And I will tell you the one thing I've learned: the older they are, the better their stories are. When you talk to someone from the 90s, they'll tell you that they beat Rush Henrietta 13-0. When you talk to someone from 1953, it was 138-0. A 30-yard field goal in the 90s was 65 yards in the 50s. They are great. They're wonderful. They have taught me so much about Aquinas just in my short 4 months here, and I'm blessed to be a part of your community. It has been so exciting to get to know the people of Aquinas, the people of Rochester. I have been open with welcome arms, and I just can't thank everybody enough for the gratitude and everything that you've shown me over these 4 months. I came here kind of as a bachelor. As some of you know, my wife is still a public high school principal in Connecticut. She'll join me in 2 years when she reaches that magical retirement age of 60, and we will then be able to settle into a more permanent home here in Western New York. I did grow up in Buffalo. I know some of you do know that, and then moved to Connecticut at the end of 8th grade. So I just wanted to welcome all of our inductees this morning. I've had a chance to meet a couple. Certainly, I've gotten to know Jackie Thomas a little bit over my time of going through the selection process, and then some of the things that we worked on in the spring. But for the rest of you, I really look forward to getting to know you, not only today, but in the years to come. So listen, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, Nick Dobberton, our board chair, is here today. I'd like to say congratulations to all of our inductees and welcome to everyone else. Thank you so much.
All right. The Distinguished Alumnus Award is the highest honor bestowed upon an Aquinas graduate. The award salutes those who exemplify the standards and objectives of the Aquinas Institute through personal conduct, professional accomplishments, and community service. This year's winner was initially recognized at commencement in June and addressed the Aquinas class of 2023. To introduce this year's distinguished alumnus is Aquinas senior Sal Schmidt.
Having grown up next to Aquinas, there was never a doubt in Michael Peeler's mind where he would go to high school. He continued his Brazilian education at St. John Fisher College, and as a senior, he coached the JV and varsity baseball teams at Aquinas with his classmate Bill Leone. He spent a year as a novice with the Order of St. Basil in Pontiac, Michigan in 1964 to 1965, and then continued as a Brazilian scholastic where he taught and coached at Aquinas. In 1970, he left the order to work in college administration, holding several different positions. First, at the Rochester Institute of Technology, and then at St. John Fisher College, where he also coached the Fisher Cardinals football team for several years. Upon the untimely death of his father, Mr. Peeler, at age 30, stepped in to run the family automobile dealerships, which at one time during his tenure numbered 15 different car lines. Peeler, the Pontiac dealer, was considered a Rochester tradition for many decades. In 1980, at the age of 34, Mr. Peeler was accepted into the formation program for the permanent diaconate of the Diocese of Rochester and studied at St. Bernard's Institute. He was ordained at Sacred Heart Cathedral by Bishop Matthew H. Clark on April 28, 1984. Mr. Peeler's first diaconal assignment was at the city parish of St. Francis Xavier. After 2 years, he was then assigned to the then newest parish of the diocese, Church of the Transfiguration in Pittsburgh, where he ministered for the next 26 years. Mr. Peeler's ministry at Transfiguration, while varied, primarily focused on men's spirituality and their relationship to church. This ministry involved developing a 25-year relationship between the men of Transfiguration and the poor of Appalachia, specifically Holy Family Parish in Boonville, Kentucky, located in Owsley County, the second poorest county in the nation. This is a program that continues today, each fall, and it's expanded to include a Women's Kentucky retreat each spring. Mr. Peeler retired from active diaconal ministry in January of 2012, but continues to serve part-time, especially participating in weddings, funerals, and baptisms. And he also remains active in the family automobile business. Ladies and gentlemen, I proudly present Michael Peeler, class of 1964.
A little embarrassing, to be honest with you. But it's certainly an honor, for sure. I'm limping around because I got a new knee about a month ago. I think the old one was better. I don't know how many of you know this, but a number of years ago, Aquinas Institute came to a crossroads. Aquinas had the opportunity to relocate to Brighton, and the old St. Agnes High School building vacated. At the time, while Aquinas was financially solvent, it was faced with significant financial challenges. This was a decision that would determine the future of Aquinas. The Aquinas community came together, the Brazilian fathers, the faculty, the staff, and administration, The students, the board of trustees, the alumni, and the benefactors made a critical decision for the survival of Aquinas. The Aquinas community decided to stay right here on Dewey Avenue. You see, Aquinas took the road less traveled. And as the poet says, that made all the difference. Today, Aquinas is flourishing. It bears much good fruit. It has become a beacon of hope and force for the good news of the gospel in the city of Rochester. At that time, this location decision was a tough choice. It was a gutsy choice, but it was the gospel choice. After the commitment was made to stay right here, the Aquinas alumni came to the table with its financial support. I want to conclude by addressing the present-day Aquinas community. What you do is more than a job. It is more than a profession or a career. It is more than a contribution. It is your vocation. It is your ministry. You stand side by side with those who seek educational and financial dignity. Aquinas is an integral part of that process. So I congratulate you today on your ministry. I thank you for this honor today, but more importantly, I thank you for the opportunity to be part of the Aquinas legacy, to serve the children of God right here in the city of Rochester. Thank you, and Aquinas evermore.
The Distinguished Career Award honors outstanding and widely recognized achievement. The award salutes in particular those who exemplify the standards and objectives of the Aquinas Institute through personal conduct, professional accomplishments, and community service. To introduce our next inductee for a distinguished career is Aquinas senior Bella Coletti.
Dr. Benjamin Comina was born and raised in Rochester, New York, to parents who instilled in him a strong work ethic that he would continue to cultivate as a student at the Aquinas. Knowing he was destined for a career in medicine, and in pursuit of guidance and structure he found at Aquinas in Catholic education, Dr. Comina chose to attend Duquesne University, where he was a chemistry and pre-med major. In 1962, Dr. Comina's interest in both clinical science and research brought him to Boston University for its esteemed MD-PhD program. While in school, he volunteered in a halfway house program for boys aged 15 to 20 who were wards of the state of Massachusetts. Dr. Comina and his new wife, Dorothy, would become the first house parents. Over time, the program grew into a 6-facility group house the Cominas helped run. During this period, Dr. Comina was a resident in Boston University in Tufts Department of Ophthalmology. In 1970, after completing his residency, Dr. Comina entered the Army as a major at Fort Sam Houston in Texas. In 1973, he returned to Boston, and as neighboring health centers formed to address lack of care in poor and minority communities, Dr. Comina proudly became the first ophthalmologist to work directly in the clinic. On May 12, 2004, the city of Boston recognized Dr. Comina's work, declaring it Benjamin Comina Day. An award given in recognition of outstanding ophthalmologists is also named in Dr. Comina's honor. Approximately 50 years later, Dr. Comina retired from the full-time practice. However, he continues to work at 2 neighboring health centers part-time. Ladies and gentlemen, I proudly present Benjamin Comina, Aquinas class of 1956.
Good morning. Our
was born, as mentioned, in Rochester, grew up in Rochester, love Rochester. My grandfather was a member of the Knights of Columbus, and he felt his goal in life was to make sure I became a good Catholic boy and also become a good person. I used to, when I was 3 or 4, associated with him and go to Mass at St. Joseph's. And unfortunately, at that time, the style was we had to wear short pants. I begged and cajoled, Pa, I can't wear those. And after a year and a half of me moaning and groaning, he finally allowed me to wear long pants. And to me, that was I was a grown up at that time. They insisted that I continue in appropriate schools, which I had in grade school, Aquinas, and at Duquesne. At Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, I studied chemistry, biochemistry, and developed a extensive interest in the human body and the human mind. So there I decided that I would become a doctor and a researcher. So I took additional classes. When I came home in the summers, I went to the U of R for German. I went to the OR to take chemistry. In addition, the School of Music. I wanted to be the new Miles Davis, but unfortunately I didn't get that time. So after this journey, I think you need to recall, or none of you were probably alive in the 60s. The 60s were a period of turmoil. You had women's rights, minority rights, voting rights, and also during that period you had giving. The Peace Corps in Massachusetts, they started a baby Peace Corps, which consisted of young people who wanted to give. So my giving after I was married was to form a halfway house. These were kids who had no parents or poor parents. They were wards of the state of Massachusetts. So the Halfway House Project, in my view, was one of the major giving that I had done, which my grandfather, and which you teach your students to not just to take, but to give to the community and give to your family. The Halfway House Project lasted 11 years due to a change in state funding, and also there was a change in mentality at that time where the state did not want to assume the responsibility for childcare. So after that, I went into the Army after finishing my internship and residency while running group homes, which my wife Dorothy was mainly in charge of and doing the nuts and bolts. I went to San Antonio as a major in the U.S. Army. And there I witnessed and treated the tragedies of war, not just physical, but emotional. Those of you who are old enough to remember the Vietnam War know of the great turmoil that occurred in our country. Should we be there? Should we not be there? But the major impetus was to help people. So as a result of this, after our Halfway House Project, which I'm fondly appreciative and proud of, after the Army, we started being involved with neighborhood health centers. Now, those of you who have walked down Ormond and that area of the city know there's a very nice neighborhood health center named after Dr. Henry Jordan. Now, Dr. Jordan was my mentor. My mom, my grandfather, and Dr. Jordan. They said, "You're smart enough. Why don't you be a doctor? You can help. You can give." And basically, I'm here as their mediator. My mom has a street named after her, Mildred Comita Drive. My family physician, Dr. Henry Jordan, Navy Health Center. These were people who loved people. They wanted to enrich and embolden the lives of all of us. So this award is not just for me, I'm the media. My mom, Dr. Henry Jordan, Aquinas, all of these people helped form me and helped me learn how to give. So I appreciate the award very much, but I'd like to share it with all of the people and institutions that we've mentioned. Thank you.
The Meritorious Service Award honors candidates who display the allegiance and dedication to the core values and mission of the Institute, representing the goodness, discipline, and knowledge supported through gospel values that are foremost in the legacy and tradition of the Aquinas Institute. Induction honors an alumnus or special friend and supporter of Aquinas who represents the Christian values taught here. This person or group should be recognized for having given back to Aquinas and the community in a way that upholds the traditions and teachings of this institution. To introduce our next inductee for meritorious service is Aquinas Jr. Harrison Gorensky.
Basilian Fathers first arrived in Aquinas in 1928, 3 years after the school opened on Dewey Avenue. 5 Basilians served as teachers from 1928 to 1932. Although the 5 Basilian teachers left Aquinas in 1932, Bishop Mooney invited the Basilians back in 1937 to assume responsibility for the administration of the school. Thus, Aquinas became a school where many Basilians were assigned with administrative and teaching roles, while the bishop continued to serve on the board. For several decades, Basilians accepted no salaries from the school, making do with the stipends, which came from weekly ministries at dozens of parishes in the diocese. Their sacrifice helped keep tuition low. In 1942, the Basilian Fathers attained the former Nazareth College from the Sisters of St. Joseph in Rochester. The site at 402 Augustine Street, behind Aquinas, became the Basilian Fathers' residence in 2002. In 1997, Father Albert Galens served as Aquinas' last Basilian priest. The philosophy of Basilian Catholic education, guided by the motto from Psalm 119, teach me goodness, discipline, and knowledge. In the atmosphere of selflessness, concern for one another, continues to inspire Aquinas experiences today. Reflecting the Basilian vision of education, rather than merely preparing students for future employment, as Aquinas education prepares young men and women for life as Christians, as citizens, as spouses, mothers, and fathers. In 70 years, the Basilians were at Aquinas, within 300 served as teachers, administrators, camp ministers, and coaches. And 62 Aquinas graduates were ordained as Basilian Fathers. Ladies and gentlemen, I proudly present Father John Huber, C.S.B., Aquinas class of 1981, to accept on behalf of the Basilian Fathers.
It's a real challenge to speak on behalf of the 333 Basilian Fathers who have worked at Aquinas throughout its history, or even the 62 Aquinas graduates who became Basilian Fathers, many of whom, like myself, remain active and who not only remain faithful to the charisms of goodness, discipline, and knowledge, but also live by the motto of our beloved Aquinas, Credo quid dixit Dei filius, which is a line from one of St. Thomas Aquinas' many hymns that he wrote, meaning I believe whatever the Son of God has said. I come from a true Aquinas family. My father graduated from Aquinas in 1948, my mother from Nazareth Academy in 1949, and although my grandfather was born too soon to go to Aquinas, he was an electrician who helped wire this building when it was built. My uncles and cousins attended Aquinas, my brothers attended Aquinas, one of whom is here today, my brother Mark, class of '88, along with his wife Lynn, who also graduated from Aquinas the same year, and they met here at school, of course. And their son Peter now teaches here, teaching science. There are so many families like mine, legacy families, who have Aquinas in our blood. I guess our blood is maroon. Our fellow Hall of Honor inductees today surely have similar stories, as well as many of you present here today. Many of our Basilian fathers over the years fell in love with Aquinas and dedicated many, many years of ministry here. And many Basilians who were and are AQ graduates have kept Aquinas close to our hearts. For those of us who are both alumni and Basilians, the two seem in so many ways to go together for us. Father Kevin Monero, who celebrated Mass this morning, and I were in the same class of 1981. In a sense, when many Aquinas graduates who were interested in a vocation in the church faced choices, whether to belong to the Diocese of Rochester, and many did, or to join a religious order, 62 of us decided to become a Basilian, perhaps because as young men eager to serve, it was a way to be faithful to our alma mater and keep a little bit of Aquinas with us always. The Basilian approach to education reflects the Catholic Church's call to educate the whole person, mind, body, and soul. It wasn't enough to teach one particular subject and go home. When I was a junior here, I really had a difficult time with trigonometry. One of my buddies suggested I go see Father Ranaletti, who was the assistant principal at the time, because he had a way of explaining it that helped a student really understand. And so that's what I did. Father Ranaletti sat in his office and drew logarithms and explained to me sine, cosine, and tangent, and I ended up doing okay in trig. But during that tutoring session in his office, another Basilian came in and told him, "Let me give you a ride home because it's pouring rain outside." Father Ranaletti didn't want to leave me there because he hadn't finished tutoring me, so he told the other Basilian not to worry, that he would walk home, and even though it was raining, he had a warm coat. That meant something to me when I was 16 years old. Some 35 years later, I held his hand and prayed the rosary with Father Ranaletti as he died from heart cancer on Valentine's Day. How many people here today can tell us stories about how a Basilian helped him or her? I wanted to be a Basilian because I saw these men caring for the whole student far beyond what an ordinary teacher would do. Perhaps I expected that because I had a similar experience with the Sisters of St. Joseph, who taught me at St. Theodore's and then at St. Pius X. Basilian priests and scholastics not only taught, but they coached and moderated clubs and got involved in all kinds of activities here at Aquinas. They were guidance counselors and chaplains and moderators of all kinds of clubs. The ministry of being present and encouraging and accompanying students was sincere, genuine, and indeed impactful. So on behalf of the Congregation of St. Basil, our priests, scholastics, novices, and associates, and even several bishops, and especially on behalf of the 333 Basilians who taught at Aquinas and the 62 Aquinas graduates who were ordained Basilians, I want to thank the Aquinas administration and entire community for this honor. We are so proud that our charisms of goodness, discipline, and knowledge continue here to this day, even if Basilians are no longer present. We're proud of the diverse student body that Aquinas serves, and we promise you our prayers and support as Aquinas continues to offer not only a fine academic education, but an overall experience of family based on the gospel values and our charisms. We believe whatever the Son of God has said. We believe in the alumni, current and future students of AQ. Aquinas evermore.
Our next inductee is also going into the Hall of Fame for meritorious service. To introduce her is Aquinas Senior Olivia Peterson.
Jacqueline Thomas had the unique experience of joining Aquinas in 1982 with the closing of St. Agnes High School. And it was not an easy transition going from an all-girls school into a head-bent all-boys program. While at Aquinas, she learned that service to others can take on many forms. She learned the foundation of the art of advocacy to speak up for herself and her beliefs. This would later develop into the talent of speaking on behalf of others. Upon graduating from Aquinas in 1985, Ms. Thomas went to St. John Fisher College, where she graduated in just 3 years with a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science. She then went to Union University's Albany Law School, where she won numerous awards, including Who's Who among American law students. In 1991, she received her Juris Doctor cum laude and began her legal career in Albany at Bauch, Holloway, Kiernan, and Casey. In 1994, Ms. Thomas returned to Rochester, Georgia with Lacey Katzen, LLP, focusing her practice in plaintiff's personal injury law. She became a partner in 2001 and is currently the chair of the firm's personal injury litigation department. Throughout her legal career, Ms. Thomas has been constantly honored for achieving a high level of professional achievement and peer recognition. She was recently recognized by Best Lawyers as the 2022 Lawyer of the Year for Plaintiff's Medical Malpractice Law, an award indicating recognition in the legal community for her legal abilities, professionalism, and integrity. She has been recognized by Super Lawyers magazine since 2017 as being in the top 5% of upstate New York lawyers for plaintiff's medical malpractice and plaintiff's personal injury law. Despite her very busy professional career, Ms. Thomas has always been dedicated to her alma mater, serving for the past 25 years as a valued member of the Aquinas Institute Board of Trustees. Ladies and gentlemen, I proudly present Jacqueline Thomas, Aquinas class of 1985.
You know, it's fitting I'm following an eye doctor this morning. I wanted to have my remarks printed out in such a way that I would not need to wear my glasses, and the font's a little bigger than I would like. So, good morning. So, 25 years ago, I was a young attorney. I just graduated from law school and moved back to Rochester when I got a phone call from the president of Aquinas. Once I got over the feeling of being called to the principal's office, I thought, why does he want to meet with me? Quite honestly, I thought he was going to hit me up for a donation. And much like the first son in today's gospel, I practiced how to let him down easy. I couldn't have been more surprised when he invited me to join the board of trustees. I thought, why me? I wasn't the class valedictorian or anywhere near it. I was a good student, but I flirted with failure once or twice, thanks to Father Ward and AP Calculus. There was no permanent St. Thomas Club for this girl. I wasn't an athlete. I didn't perform in the school play. I didn't even go to an Ivy League college. Truth be told, I was a bit of a wallflower in high school. As you heard, I came in my sophomore year with the closing of the all-girls school, St. Agnes. The incoming group of girls was outnumbered by boys 3-1, and some of the faculty didn't quite know what to do with us. I spent a lot of my time trying to fly under the radar screen and avoid getting called on. I wasn't involved in a lot of extracurricular activities because finding a ride home all the way to Henrietta wasn't easy, and there was always a part-time job to get to after school. I said yes to the opportunity to serve on the board without really understanding why I'd been chosen or what exactly would be involved. My time on the board these past 25 years became the involvement I didn't have as a student. As my life and career got busier, I often thought, well, I should step away. But there always seemed to be some new and exciting challenge facing the school that kept me on. When I received a call a couple of months ago about today's honor, I have to say it was kind of a full circle moment. I couldn't help but again think, well, why me? Let's face it, I'm following the Bazillion Fathers here. And it's kind of like being the opening act for the Beatles. I really didn't do anything very memorable during my time here at Aquinas, but I did take the lessons that I learned here. Discipline, tenacity, and integrity, and I applied them to my life and my work after rolling these halls. And maybe that's why me. And Aquinas education isn't just for the most outstanding students or star athletes. If you're willing to put in the time and the effort, and Aquinas education can take you just about anywhere you want to go. I thank you for this recognition, but I thank you more for the opportunity to give back and be so involved after graduation. Thank you for putting up with me for so long, my not so quiet opinions, and my endless parental feedback. Thank you to my family, Mark, for putting up with the countless meetings and the ultimate sacrifice he's missing opening day to be here today. Thank you to my girls, Olivia, class of 2020, and Sophie, class of 2022. They always make me look so good. Unlike their mom, they both played varsity sports and made permanent St. Thomas Club. But most of all, thank you to my mom and my dad, who bought their very first new car in their 60s, because it was way more important to send 4 kids through Catholic school.
The Athletics Award honors outstanding athletes for their athletic performance or coaching, leadership, and team contributions at Aquinas. Following their tenure at Aquinas, nominees must have maintained a record of good standing in their communities and their chosen fields of endeavor. To introduce our first Athletics Award inductee is Aquinas senior Brandon Beeman.
While a student at Aquinas, the standard of excellence raised the level of expectation Stephen Essler had for himself, while the life skills and knowledge helped to raise his level of confidence to chase his dreams he once thought were unattainable. As a member of Aquinas indoor and outdoor track and field teams, Mr. Essler set school records for both indoor and outdoor track and field in the high jump and pentathlon, while winning sectional titles in the indoor and outdoor seasons in both of those events. In 1998, he was crowned the outdoor state champion in the high jump when he set the school record of 6 feet 7 inches, a record that still stands today. Mr. Essler continued his track and field career and success at the University of Buffalo. He set school records in the indoor high jump, indoor pentathlon, indoor heptathlon, outdoor high jump, and outdoor decathlon. He was a Mid-American Conference champion in the outdoor decathlon and indoor heptathlon. In 2003, Stephen was recognized as the University of Buffalo's Male Athlete of the Year. Mr. Essler's standard of excellence at UB also extended to the classroom, as he received 2 degrees, a Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science and a Master's of Science in Biomechanics. From 2004 to 2016, Mr. Essler stayed on at the University of Buffalo as a coach for the Bulls track and field team. His athletes set 15 school records, won 10 individual MAC championships, qualified for 15 NCAA championships, 5 USA Junior National Championships, and 4 Canadian National Championships. In 2016, he also had the honor of coaching Team USA's men's decathletes at the Pan American Combined Event. Ladies and gentlemen, I proudly present Stephen Essler, class of 1999.
I had a feeling this was going to happen. I haven't been to campus in a long time, and while putting together thoughts for what I was going to say, I tried to imagine what it was going to feel like being here, and feeling all the memories and experiences come back to me. And it's been overwhelming, to say the least. This is more than an honor to be recognized by such a prestigious institute. It's an accomplishment I'm going to hold in the highest regard for the rest of my life. And to share it with people closest to me, friends and family, is even more special. Since graduating from Aquinas, I've been living out of town, and regretfully haven't taken the time to come back as often and to see as much that's gone on here. This event, though, has given me the opportunity to come home and see what all the hype has been about. This time since hearing about all this has given me a chance to reflect on all my experiences here and to give special thought to the people who helped me through my experience here. Joby Knapp being one of the first people that came to mind on that list as my freshman basketball coach. He set the tone for a 4-year journey of combining academics with athletics. And in the few conversations I've had with him while setting this up, it's reminded me of his lighthearted, fun-loving attitude that he's put to use here at Aquinas while molding responsible and caring citizens. I have to mention my track coaches while here, of course. Mr. Manuzak is here. Mr. Manuzak was a very strong figure at my time here. He put up with my immature behavior and short-sighted mindset as I struggled to find my adolescent identity. And in doing so, he helped put me on the right track in athletics, academics, and beyond. His help and support is just a small example of what all the other coaches, teachers, and support staff have done for Aquinas graduates throughout the years in the history of this great institute. So I ask everyone here to remember the power of patience when dealing with those younger than us. Their potential is greater than we can imagine, and with a little consistency and a lot of encouragement, we can all help build up the next generation of the future, just like my parents did with me and my siblings. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Thank you all.
Our next athletics award inductee will be introduced by Aquinas senior Nora Valentino.
When Keith Mansig considered coming to Aquinas as an 8th grader, he had aspirations of donning a sweater for the Little Irish hockey team. 5 years later, he graduated as the most prolific goal scorer in school history, just not on the ice. Once he arrived at Aquinas, Mr. Mansig decided to focus his time and energy on the soccer field, and the result was one of the most successful careers in Aquinas soccer history. He was a huge part of an unprecedented run by Coach Joe LaPietra's teams as Little Irish won 3 sectional titles from 2001 to 2003, and capped off the 2003 season with the school's second ever state championship. During that season, Mr. Mansik set the school record for goals in a season with 38 and points in a season with 90. He was named All Greater Rochester Player of the Year and First Team All-State, as well as being named to All-American Team. Mr. Mansik completed his soccer career at Aquinas with the most career goals scored in school history of 79 and most career points of 202. He was inducted into the Section 5 Boys Soccer Hall of Fame in 2014. Success on the pitch continued for Mr. Mansik in college at SUNY Oneonta. In 2006, he set the school record for the most goals in a season, most assists in a season, and most points in a season. He was also Oneonta's Men Athlete of the Year from 2006 to 2007. Mr. Mansik graduated from Oneonta in 2009 with a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting. He went on to receive his MBA in finance from the University of Albany in 2015. He credits Aquinas with providing the foundation in ethics and morals, among other things that have helped him excel in his profession. Ladies and gentlemen, I proudly present Keith Mansik, Aquinas class of 2004.
Figured to get Taz. Taz used to come here for that. It's awesome. Kelly Nice is the coach of Aquinas. To begin, really an honor to be up here. It's really cool. I live in the Albany, New York area now, so come back here to Aquinas is really cool. What I will say though is that I usually wing the speeches, and when I got a note and email to say you have to write this and turn this in, I thought I was back at Aquinas. I'm 20 years and they're still giving me homework. I don't understand what's going on. But it's a good thing I did because my wife and kids are here, and I did not want to receive a jug. I didn't get one for 4 years. Do you still do jugs? Okay, so yeah, I don't want to get a jug today. But in all seriousness, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the other inductees today. It's an honor for you guys to be here and to be inducted in this Hall of Fame. It's no small feat, so I know that you are making your family, friends, and institutions proud. So, the Basilian Fathers, Stephen Essler, Daniel Mistrella, Michael Keeler, Dr. Benjamin Kumina, Jacqueline Thomas, and the 2008 girls softball team. And a big part of my speech was actually the ice hockey part, so thank you for completely stealing that from me. I actually wasn't even planning to take the entrance exam. Look at my mom. I'm gonna say my special thanks to you guys now because if not, I'm not getting the speech. Thanks to mom and dad because practices, games, long weekends, competitions, all that stuff. Without you guys. That was to the end, but I got out of the way. So, okay. That was supposed to be the end, yeah. So we gotta get out of the way. But it is funny how life works out. Was kind of coming here to play ice hockey, and then just through eventually being overwhelmed with playing 2 sports at a high level, had to end up picking one. And so came here to play ice hockey, ended up being inducted into the Hall of Fame for soccer. So it is funny how life works out. I say that thing a lot with my family. It takes you in different paths all the time. And it is a bit of cliche, right? We hear all the time, where does the time go? And this is 20 years for me coming up that I've been graduated. And even though this award is for athletics, there are a lot of things off the field that have also helped me in my life. Family values, pursuit of knowledge, ongoing learning, integrity, respect for others. These things I hold very dear and it's very important to me. And Aquinas has helped me with that. I'd also like to thank Aquinas colleagues, teachers, alumni, members of my teams. This is not an individual sport in the award I view this as an individual award. Without the other players on the field, team success or individual success is not possible. To my coaches, Joe Petra and Chad Valentino. They were able to take some incredible teams and players that we had and mold them into some of the best teams New York State has ever seen. And I actually just received a text right before I got here from my coach, Joe Petra, who's also going through some stuff right now with ALS. So it really meant a lot. Thank you to my friends and family, some of them here today. These things don't happen without a great support system, so and they don't go unnoticed. In conclusion, thanks to the Aquinas Committee for selecting me for this honor. Very appreciative and humbled for the distinguishment. It means the world to me to be part of this Hall of Fame. Thanks.
Our next Athletics Award inductee will be introduced by Aquinas Jr., Lucas Leone.
When someone sets a school record that is still standing after close to 50 light years, like Daniel Sutter did in shot put in 1976, it is obviously quite impressive. However, when you realize that his distance of 59 feet, 6 3/4 inches would have placed him 19th at this year's Summer Olympic Games in Montreal, it all makes sense. Mr. Michelle was an anchor for the 1976 outdoor track and field team that claimed Aquinas' first ever Section 5 championship, capping a 4-year undefeated run for the Little Irish track and field squad that won 4 straight City Catholic League championships. As a 4-year member of the varsity track and field program, Mr. Michelle was a 3-time Section 5 champion in the shot put on the indoor team, as well as a 2-time sectional champion in the outdoor track. Mr. Michelle's athletic success extended to the gridiron, where he was a 3-year varsity starter at defensive tackle and consistently led the team in tackles and sacks. He was twice in his first team All-City Catholic, and in his senior year, he was named first team All-Greater Rochester and first team All-State at defensive tackle. After Aquinas, Dan attended Colgate University, where he earned his Bachelor of Arts in Economics and was a 3-year starter at defensive tackle for the Raiders. Dan also received his MBA in accounting from Rochester Institute of Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, I proudly present Daniel Michelle, Vice Class.
Last year, I had the honor of being part of the 1976 track team that was inducted in the Hall of Fame. And a bunch of us from the team showed up at the dinner. We all came up to the podium. Fortunately, a couple of the guys volunteered to say a few words. Me, because I hate public speaking of any kind, I hid in the back, I smiled for a couple pictures, and I got away easy. Today I'm up here by myself, so I guess I need to say a few words, but I will make it quick. First off, let me say that I am honored, deeply honored, and humbled to be inducted into the Aquinas Hall of Fame. Given the tremendous number of good athletes that come out of Aquinas year in and year out, given the tremendous number of Aquinas alumni who go on to do great things in the community and in their chosen fields, to be considered among the elite of that group truly is an honor, and it truly is humbling. So I would sincerely like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee for deeming me worthy of this honor. Thank you so much, it means so much to me. Also, I'm not exactly sure how the nominating process works, but I'd like to thank Bob Ebert and Tony Bianchi, 2 great ambassadors for Aquinas, because I know they were involved in nominating me for this honor and working behind the scenes on my behalf. So to those two, and to anyone else who unknowingly to me may have nominated me for this honor or worked behind the scenes on my behalf, thank you very much. I'd like to thank my parents, My dad was unfortunately not here. My mother, who's the 4'11", 95-pound lady sitting out there, whose back has never been the same since giving birth to an almost 10-pound me many years ago. My parents always taught my brothers and I the value of hard work. You know, we often heard around our house, you know, especially when we were acting or feeling a little bit too entitled. Remember, nobody owes you anything. Anything you want, you need to go out and work for it. And my parents not only preached that concept, but they demonstrated it in their everyday lives, always working hard and sacrificing for the family. I'd also like to thank my parents for sending, again, my brothers and I to Aquinas. When I was a know-it-all kid graduating 8th grade, I had a couple of good friends going to Jefferson High School, and I told my parents, you know what, I think I want to go to Jefferson. And I know school choice is a big buzzword, and everyone's entitled to school choice, but there was no school choice in it. My parents said, you're going to Aquinas, that's it, end of the story. They not only thought that much about the education that Aquinas would provide, but also the religious aspect and the discipline that it would instill, that they were willing to sacrifice. And it was a sacrifice for them to send us there. So for that, I thank them. I'd like to acknowledge my family, my beautiful wife, Lisa. Get this right, we just celebrated our 33rd anniversary last month. Our 4 children, their significant others, 4 grandchildren, 2 more grandchildren coming this month. And hopefully that won't be the last of the grandchildren. Again, I have truly been blessed, and I'm so honored that my family could be here today to help me celebrate this special occasion. So in closing, I would just like to say again to the Hall of Fame Committee, anyone involved in nominating me for this honor, my parents, my family, and all of you that came out here today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so honored. Thank you.
Our final award this morning goes to an outstanding team. I invite the entire team to come up and be introduced by Aquinas senior Aliana Belushi.
The 2008 Aquinas girls softball team is the most dominant team in the program's history. The team had the perfect combination of dominant pitching, flawless defense, and offensive firepower as they finished the season with a record of 29-2, winning the school's first ever New York State championship. They were led by All Greater Rochester and New York State Class A Player of the Year, pitcher Bree Allen, the current softball coach of Aquinas, who set multiple Section 5 records during the storybook season. Coach Mike Rosadonia was named All Greater Rochester and New York State Class A Coach of the Year, and 5 other players were recognized as All-State or All Greater Rochester. Throughout the season, the team had several exciting battles on the diamond, but none was more exciting than the state final. The Lady Irish defeated South Glens Falls 5-3, snapping the defending state champions' 47-game winning streak. Ladies and gentlemen, I proudly present the 2008 Aquinas girls softball team and speaking on their
It's hard to look at that picture because I think I was trying to get pregnant with my wife. A little different guy. But, you know, what an honor on behalf of these girls in 2018
So honored and excited to be selected to the Aquinas Institute Hall of Fame. Congratulations to all the other inductees today as well. I'm not an AQ alum like many of you are here today, but in the 12 years I was a part of the Aquinas community and family on a daily basis, I know how prestigious this recognition is for this amazing group of young ladies. First and foremost, I want to express our deepest appreciation to our families and loved ones. Throughout those formative years, you were our pillars of support. You cheered us on from the sidelines, celebrated our victories, and offered comfort during our defeats. Your unwavering belief in us allowed us to chase our dreams with confidence, and for that, we share this honor with you. So thanks to all the families and parents and everybody. You know, the main reason I get to be kind of part of this day is because of my wife. You know, many of you that do know me, I'm really a basketball coach. And I had no job back in 2004, and she said, "You off your butt, apply for the JV softball job at Aquinas." So Big Cerrone hired me, and the rest is kind of history. So thanks to my wife. You know, when you achieve an accomplishment like winning a state title, there's so many people that are involved in your success on and off the field. So I'd just like to thank the administrators and teachers who have helped, had an impact on each and every one of us up here. And some special thanks to Dick Cerrone, who hired me, Joby Knapp, who's part of the admissions department then, helped bring many of these young ladies in here. Was a big supporter of our program. Anthony Bianchi, who really helped me as a young coach develop over time. Bob Ebert, who's always been a big, not just supporter of mine, but obviously probably the biggest AQ fan we all know out there. Bob Huber, who couldn't be here now, was always a big softball supporter of ours. And, you know, our bus driver, Papa Noel, Kathy Wade, who got us to and from contests, not just safely, but were our biggest fans out there when they took us. The coaches that were part of the softball staff throughout the time, you know, Jeff Barazak, Paul Monachino, Jim Burke, were all big parts of helping these girls develop. Jerry Cecina, do-it-all AQ guy, right? He'd come in and throw live BP, he'd coach bases, he'd do the book. Whatever we needed Jerry to do, he was always there. Probably the single most important decision I made as a coach was hiring this guy. And when I say hire, we didn't pay him. He volunteered his time graciously, but he was taught me a lot about the game of softball, the nuances of it. He did it all summer with a lot of the girls that are standing here now. But Greg Stahl was a big part of our success and had a lot to do with us winning the state championship. So thanks, Greg. You know, when I think about this team, you know, three characteristics come to mind. They were all hard workers in and out of the season. They had a passion for winning. They demanded excellence of themselves. And they were a family. They loved each other, and they had a little hate for each other as well at times. But when I think of great softball teams, you know, it starts with the pitcher, right? That's the first and foremost. So we had, in my opinion, the best pitcher in the state in 2008. We had a great defensive team. Our catcher was tough and a great leader for us. Our infield, our third baseman, shortstop, and second baseman, anytime the ball was hit to them, you know it was just an automatic out. We had a freshman first baseman who never played there before, and nothing ever fazed him. You know, stepping into a team like that. Our outfield was probably the most athletic outfield I've seen. Right? Our center fielder could run down anything, gap to gap. Our corner outfielders were extremely athletic and made everything look routine. We had important contributions from underclassmen, whether they were starters, role players. They made clutch plays, pinch ran, whatever we needed them to do. We had great experience in leadership, 7 senior starters and captains. And I think the biggest thing is we learned from previous failures. You know, we finally were able to get over a hump against a victory team that kept beating us year after year, and then we ended up beating them, you know, in that year. When I look back at the history of Aquinas and all the exceptional student athletes, championships, and contributing members to AQ, it's an honor this team is now mentioned in all as Aquinas grades. To the Hall of Fame Committee and the school administration, we extend our sincere gratitude for this recognition. It represents not just our achievements, but also the spirit of unity and excellence that Aquinas has instilled in us. Thank you once again, you've all been a part of this journey. And to this group of ladies, this honor is a testament to their spirit of unity and friendship that defined their time together. We're truly honored and deeply grateful for this incredible recognition. Thank you.
Congratulations again to all of our inductees this morning. I want to thank you all for joining us. This concludes our